Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are. This is Patriot Pravda podcast, and we're back with Season 2.
Season 2, Episode 3.
Alright, and there is a lot that, well, maybe not a lot. There's going to be a bunch of stuff we're going to be talking about in this episode, right, Rob?
Yes, just a few things. Maybe about some stuff you may have already heard, but you'll hear our twist on it, hear our take on it.
Yes, there's a few short clips. We'll talk about some local stuff also just a little bit. And yeah, we'll just continue on with the episode. So, welcome back.
Good to have you. We'll see you in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Tell you the news. My head's been wet with the midnight dew. I've been down on bended knee, talking to the man from Galilee. He spoke to me in a voice so sweet, I thought I heard the shuffle of angels' feet. He called my name when my heart stood still, when he said, man, go do my will, go tell that long-tongued liar.
All right, so we are back again for another episode here on Patriot Pravda.
Good to be back. How's things been going for you personally?
Good. A little crazy. Had my first emergency call at work today. Someone almost died. But hey, we're good. Everything's going well.
Well, I'm about to head back to work for 3 weeks.
Yes, back underground.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting. You're driving up this time?
Yes, we'll be driving up. Yeah, it's about a 6.5 hour or so drive.
I love Alaska.
Yeah, just to get to work. Yep. But we stay there. You live there for 3 weeks. Got my own little dorm room essentially. So yeah, it's comfortable.
Yeah, it's a really great deal if you can make it work and sort out all the arrangements and everything like that. And the companies tend to make it easier too. They help out and
they didn't help out for a while. I mean, it's complicated, but yeah, they didn't help out for a while, and then they just kind of released this new program that's going to help offset costs to travel to work.
Yeah, that'll be really good. But so today, what's our starting verse?
Our verse of the episode is Genesis 12. Verses 1 through 3, the Lord had said to Abraham, quote, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you."
Now, why might we be talking about that particular subject?
Well, a couple of things have happened in the last couple of days regarding Israel. I mean, Israel's in a war right now. They were attacked by help me out.
Yeah, they were attacked by Hamas.
Hamas, thank you. I was going to say Hezbollah, but they're all the same.
Yeah, all kind of the same. And then also more recently, they've been getting missiled. That's not really a real term, but shot at by all kinds of missiles and stuff from Iran. So that's fun.
Directly.
Yeah, directly.
So that's kind of a first in history, is Iran actually attacking Israel directly instead of through terror organizations.
Yeah, actually claiming it for their own and not just paying other people to do it.
Yeah, this past Saturday they fired over about 600 missiles.
Yeah.
Now 300 of which were either misfires or pre-detonated before they ever reached their target.
Right, and the rest of those were
they shot down,
vaporized by the Iron Dome.
They said they got about 99% of those missiles, which is incredible
system.
It is, and it wasn't just Iron Dome; it was interceptions by fighter aircraft, and then the United States, France, Great Britain. And another of other, including Jordan, believe it or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're giving intel on all this stuff. So it was a great teamwork, and I think we should, obviously remain allied with them and support them through this. And I mean, we can get into the nitty gritty about their invasion into Palestine and Gaza and trying to, root out the terror organizations there. But
Right.
honestly, when I boil it down personally, I think they should take them all out. Just, try to mitigate civilian casualties. But the problem with that type of warfare is you really don't know what's what, who's who. So,
yeah. If there's anything that we've learned in our time and our experience is that war is never fun, and it's never easy. It's never simple. It's always complicated and convoluted and ridiculous, and people that aren't supposed to get hurt by it all the time.
Yeah, it's complicated, even like uniform v uniform, knowing what the other enemy is wearing and what they look like and different things like that. But when you get into this type of warfare, it just adds a whole new layer,
Right?
Multiple layers, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
and those layers they split and they spread and they converge and they diverge.
Yeah.
Especially with people who get involved and put more money to this side or put money to both sides, and it's just all one great big mess.
But we chose that verse today because now the Lord did say it was speaking to Abraham.
Right.
But through Abraham came Israel and that nation.
Right.
And so I still believe that promise holds true to this day.
Yeah, and it would be unlike God for him to make that particular promise, speaking to Abraham, who was the father of that nation, and not live that out or keep to that promise throughout the lifetime of that nation and that people group.
Right. And at the very end, verse 3, I will bless those who bless you and curse whoever curses you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all people on earth will be blessed through you. What he's referring to there, what God is referring to in that last passage is through the house of David came our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Right. And that is what he's referring to there. And that is a blessing to all of us, to all mankind, for what he did.
That's the main key for everybody.
Right.
And without that people, without those tribes, and without that lineage,
right,
we don't get Jesus, and we don't get true salvation in its truest form. So
right. But what did you have for us today? Speaking of Israel and this topic, and some of the nutso stuff that has been happening in recent days.
Yeah, so there is a Teamsters union leader in Chicago that decided he wanted to teach his group the phrase margbarg in, I forget what language, Persian, I think.
I'm sorry?
Yes. So essentially margbarg means death to or down with. And they have a little chant that they do. And this is what, and you'll hear it kind of explained in the clip, that this is a large union in the Chicago area, and they do have a lot of power politically. Mm-hmm. And so they're teaching them this phrase, but it does not just stay with just a simple margbarg. It gets a little worse than that. So we have a short clip. So this is that.
So I'm going to teach you a chant in Persian that you can use if you ever encounter those Zionist freaks, whether they be Iranian or whatever, all right? Now, I don't drink margaritas, but we all know what a margarita is.
Don't you love the virtue signaling before he chants for death?
So you're going to say, Margbar. Margbar. Margbar Israel. Margbar Israel. Margbar Israel. Margbar Israel.
He's doing like a rapper.
Margbar Israel.
Yeah.
Margbar Israel. Thank you.
What does that mean?
They're clapping.
I love he says thank you. Like he salutes. He almost says that's my time.
So it has two meanings depending on who's asking. It can mean death to or down with. So
Can we get a Margbar America?
we can get a Margbar America. Yes, we can. Margbar America. Margbar America. Margbar America. Margbar America.
The good news is he doesn't drink margaritas.
So,
So funny. Yeah, that's.
yeah. So there's a clip from Loud with Crowder, Steven Crowder's
Right,
show, and I'm sporting the mug today. So
I couldn't stand how they were laughing, like when he said that it has 2 meetings. Like
yeah,
you know, during
that group.
It's just so
A group
infuriating.
A group full of people still wearing masks.
Oh yeah, they're
in 2024.
yeah.
They are all chanting together in unison, "Death to Israel," and then some genius from the crowd goes, "Oh, can we get a Margbarg America," which is Margbarg America. So it goes from death to Israel to death to America.
Yeah.
And these are people with a, boo is right. That is people with a huge political influence in the Chicago area that are spending money and making sure that particular people get into office and can affect politics in the United States, which is just it's a nightmare.
How did we get to this point? I mean, that's kind of what we've been kind of talking about over the last several year or two with us. But if you've been listening, just the steady decay,
right? And it really stinks to see, but I mean, it is all part of what is supposed to happen. So I mean, God called it. He's not wrong. Things are going to decline slowly and continually until it's rapture time. So
yeah. But maybe he should.
But the so yeah, there's going to be just this. We continue to see these groups coalesce and form because of all of what's going on between Israel and Palestine, which I don't think is technically a country. But actually, I did want to mention, I did see on the news that there was a group of Palestinian supporters they blocked off, they stopped traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
Yeah, I was watching that on the news, and I was just like, wow, like, how can I feel to a certain point, local authorities, police and that are continually becoming complicit in these kind of things. Because
the police themselves are walking on eggshells now over everything.
They have to.
I mean, I have my own issues with police and their certain authority complex, and I do back the blue, but not as
1,000,000%.
Yeah,
all
I
the
don't.
time.
Not all the time. There's I mean, the whole Acorn incident. I mean, yeah, that guy needed some retraining. He needed to be trained.
I've been hit.
He probably shouldn't have been an officer, regardless. Was there some sort of qualification that was skipped over, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, we don't know.
So I don't back the blue 100% for every situation. I'm sure there's some good people in the organization, but getting back to this, their hands have been tied by their own superiors for a lot of situations.
I agree. I think their hands are tied, but I also think there's another level of that, and Tim Pool frequently talks about this on his shows. If you know that your hands, your command that you're getting from your leadership is to let these people just do all this illegal stuff, why would you continue to wear the badge? At that point, you're making a deal.
Yeah.
And I think what he kind of says, he's like, you're making a deal with the devil at that point. You're saying, hey, just keep paying my salary, keep food on my table. I have no morals. Keep paying me, and I'll do whatever you want me to do. And we kind of have. You have to have that willingness to stand up for what's right. And there's been a similar discussion with, Border Patrol and CBP.
Right.
They know that certain kids that are coming across the border in these large groups of people, of illegal people that are coming into the country, they know some of these kids are being trafficked and into sex slavery. And instead of saying, you know what, I don't want to be part of this. I know, it's out of my control. It's out of my hands.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to be told to allow these people to come in, and I'm going to continue to have to just give these people a name tag and a plane ticket and send them into the country, even though I know I'm sending them for sure into sex slavery for kids. I'm just going to do that because I got to feed my family.
Yeah,
there's got to be.
I wouldn't be able to continue with that as a job if that
right.
was. I probably would have gotten out when the whole policy changeover started to happen after the Trump administration, or after the Biden administration took over, and they started changing all those policies and stopped the wall building, and I probably would have just been like, okay, I can see where this is headed.
Yeah,
But,
and so I think if you do have. If you're a person that stands on law and stands on morals, you have to be willing to stand up to your leadership at risk of your paycheck. Because I mean, let's face it. Let's be real. You will be able to get another job somewhere else. It's not going to be easy by any means. I'm not saying.
If you were in Border Patrol, there's got to be private security that's out there,
right.
armored transportation. There's a slew, or just working for a security company, or I'm not saying that would be as good a paying job, but there's got to be things in that line of work that would, your experience would be a direct crossover.
Right.
Probably a lot less headache.
Right. And I'm not saying that as someone who also this year changed a job, picked up my whole house, moved it's not easy. And
right.
I can imagine how much harder it would have been had we had kids.
Right.
And still having to go through that. So
and even now, the economy's in such, shreds.
Yeah.
And tatters that it's even harder to get up and move, and housing market is crazy.
Right.
Interest rates are, ridiculous. So I can't blame people for not wanting to pick up and, move and then set down again somewhere that they're going to end up paying more than what they were, where they were at. So
right. But
there's just a lot of different nuances.
There is. But I do still think that there's got to be a line. You have to be willing, if you have morals, you have to be willing to stand on those morals, which is, part of the reason why we do this show.
Right.
I don't think either of our employers would be like, yeah, keep doing that show. You know what? Just wear our logo too. But you have to, if you have morals, you have a standard, you believe in truth, you have to be willing to voice it, even if it means putting your livelihood at risk. I think at least that's the standard that I have for myself. If my job, if they delivered some kids into the front doorway and then say, hey, don't talk about this, we're sending these kids to this area, they're going to be trafficked off to this person, oh, you better believe I will be loud can be about it. I would if that was the case, I'd for sure lose my job, but I could care less if that means stopping this from happening.
Right.
But yeah, just some people just don't have that. They don't have that little voice in them that would stop that. It's frustrating.
Yeah, but you did have some local news for us as well to change gears here a little bit.
Yeah.
Or some sort of local person that you wanted to. She said something about budgets and.
Yes. So there is a local state politician that's going to be having kind of she has a couple sit down talks scheduled and planned, for locals here around the Anchorage area, and her part of what she's pushing, she's very anti-jail and the prison system here in Alaska, the state of Alaska. Mm-hmm. And
the prison system in Alaska has gone through its ups and downs quite a bit. There was a number of years ago, I think it was Senate Bill 91, SB 91, I believe it was. This is going back to, I think, 2015. when they were just going to turn around and let non-violent offenders out, basically a 24-hour rollover.
Yeah.
If that, sometimes it was like 3 hours, 4 hours, get a court date, maybe show up, and they were right back out on the streets. And the vehicle theft in this city went up over 300%.
Yeah.
And it was so bad they closed because they were trying to cut costs, and they closed a prison a couple of cities away, probably about 40 miles from here, which was a higher security prison. And all those inmates got, either if they were violent, they got moved to Anchorage jail, or if they were nonviolent, they got, or something like that, they got let out on parole. And it really turned into a nightmare for a lot of people. Just not only vehicle theft, but just theft in general went up across the board.
Yeah,
so.
and the thing about jail and people that go in and out of jail, the more times you go into jail, the harder it becomes because each time you get let out, you get a stricter set of guidelines that you got to follow. And so if these people that end up in that position to be in jail continue to not care about those guidelines, they continue, and it's of their choosing. I'm not saying that this is a justice problem. I think it's those people's problem that they can't just follow simple directions that the majority of folks do follow. And so they're less willing to follow directions. And then it gets to the point where these people start coming in voluntarily or finding ways so they can come into jail and create an internal system in the correction system, in prisons. And they create these just inmate networks where they're talking to each other and continuing to cycle people through so they can push things or heaven forbid, try to sneak things into the jail to share.
Like the currency, it's a money-making scheme, but, the currency is information, drugs, and money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Information, drugs, money, and butt is the jail currency.
Yeah.
But anyway, this particular politician, who potentially might get a visit from myself, I'm looking forward to that, is trying...
For deep questioning.
Yes, very deep questioning. I have a couple of really good questions for her. She's trying to push the fact that DOC here is corrupt, and there are a lot... We're not following certain policies or procedures, and due to that, there is a calling for the budget for corrections to be massively decreased. And what I read was that they're asking for a proposal from DOC of a budget that would include potential closure of a facility or multiple facilities. So it's kind of a repeat of that same issue that you had just mentioned.
Yeah, it didn't pan out well, and I hope the DOC remembers that and calls that to attention and says, we're not doing this again, because it didn't help anybody out, including the inmates.
Right, and I approach this as a citizen of this area, someone who lives here, and who lives in one of the more populated areas of this state. It is a huge safety issue that, where are we going to put these people?
Right.
I mean, are we going to just let them out?
We already have a serious homelessness problem, and I'm not saying that the homeless are criminals.
Yeah, and it's not nearly as serious as California or other places.
No, it's
but
not.
For Alaska, where it gets to
per capita.
Yeah. For Alaska, where it gets to like negative 30 degrees in the winter, and you still have such a huge homeless population here.
Oh, there's ones that pass away. There's homeless people that pass away every single winter, every year. Yeah. And and not just that, some people do survive, but I know of a gentleman who lost both his hands from frostbite because he was completely drunk, passed out, and woke up and his hands were frozen. And that's a completely separate issue. We're not trying to say that homelessness is a crime here. They've come on hard times. Some of them are addicts, alcoholics,
and some people choose it. I've run into several folks who choose to live on the street because there's things that they can do on the street that they can't do if they were tied to having to pay for rent or
True.
tied to living in a facility where they have to follow a certain amount of guidelines.
Yeah, there's a few halfway houses here. I used to live directly across from one. We shared a yard basically with a halfway house, and they were pretty decent. They did have some guidelines and rules for people who were getting out, and as long as you stayed within those rules, you had a pretty decent life.
Yeah. And so there's that whole portion of that where they want to potentially close facilities because they think they're wasting too much money on the prison system here in Alaska.
Do they say where that money's going to be reallocated to?
No, but I have a few ideas of where they might want to reallocate that money, and that's going to be my main question for is, okay, we want to remove all this funding for DOC. Then where are you wanting it? Let me ask you, how much funding are you asking for DEI in public utilities and things like that in these companies that run how things work here in this city or in this state? How many of those government agencies are you wanting to give funding to so they can do DEI training, so they can require certain types of multicultural groups and as part of training? And how much money are we going to dump into that? How many millions of dollars are we going to force into retraining people how to be gender sensitive?
Right. And just real quick, DEI is completely different than like when you go to get a job, or their hiring policy is we don't discriminate against race, gender, sexuality, religion.
Right.
It's different than that. That is a ethical law,
Right.
That they have put in place so that you cannot be discriminated against based on what you do. But DEI is completely it's socialist roots, and basically what ends up happening is people get hired to do certain jobs based on. So it's the reverse,
Right.
And it doesn't matter. Like they might not have good enough qualifications to meet the standard.
It would be, and this is a really extreme example. You may have 3 or 4 people qualified to hold a certain job, and say 3 of these people are highly qualified and they're great, would be great fit for the job, but then you have this one person who's not nearly as qualified as the others, but because that person may be gay, or because that person may be a mix of protected classes, maybe they're and this is not a joke, but maybe they're transgender and they have some type of mental disability, or they're a protected class in that way, or maybe they're
Right.
have some type of other medical issues or disability.
What it boils down to is that the government, local or state or federal, requires them to have a certain number of these individuals, protected classes,
Right.
trans, gay, whatever. They're required to have those amount of people, a certain number of those people in positions.
Whether or not they're
qualified
to have that position. So they'll kick the people that are qualified to the curb. People who would actually do great things in that position, they'll kick to the curb so they can meet that quota.
Ma'am. It is ma'am.
Yeah, that will continue to happen more and more if we continue to. So that would be my biggest question for her: is how much of this you want to dump into to DEI and local and state groups, and government agencies and things like that, state government agencies. My second question would be, how much money are you dumping into the schools? And how are we trying to pay off teachers' unions that want to push this horrible, horrible stuff on our kids, that want to put sexual things in the minds of the children here in Alaska? How much funding do you want to put towards that? So it's more important for this particular politician to fund those things, to show certain materials, and I don't know for sure, and that's why these are questions that I would want to ask. How much money do they want to put towards that kind of stuff? Are they okay with putting $2 million into the school system so they can have a particular book in the library that shows your kid how to have anal sex with their gay partner?
Yeah.
Like, and so you want to take that funding away from the prison system here in Alaska, making the actual area less safe, and then also endangering our kids and our well-being as far as how certain government agencies run, safety, infrastructure, roadways, things like that, utilities, because we want to try to enforce some kind of DEI quota. And none of these things are cheap. It's...
Yeah, but they're an invented... Yeah, they're not cheap, but they're also an invented cost. They just made it up, and so they make another bureaucracy and another department and another place for them to spend money and get more money. And
it's like some of the stuff that they were doing in California. California has not upgraded their why California has droughts every year and catches on fire is because they haven't devised ways or invested money into capturing rainwater in certain areas, or creating different flows of water to save natural rainwater, because they don't want to disturb habitats.
Right, yeah, I was going to say, it all goes back to disturbing...
some rare microbacteria that grows in this particular type of soil in this one area. And what we're going to do is we're going to dump $35 million into researching this bacteria, versus $5 million in a redirection of a waterway through that area so that these people can have solid drinking water for the next 6 months. It's like, what are our priorities?
It's all flop. I mean, Alaska's done that too. They did it. I can't remember how much money they allocated to, but I think it was over $1 million, which is small comparatively to other things. But they were studying the reproductive cycle and systems of ice worms.
Yeah. See, it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
I know, ice worms may be cool, but it what's the purpose?
Yeah, it doesn't serve the greater good. I mean, there's a lot bigger problems to focus on. I think the time for that frivolous spending and researching different obscure animals is gone. I mean, I think we could get away with it in the 50s and maybe 60s, but even then people could argue that there was money to be spent wisely on other things. But
yeah, and I'm not saying we should never spend money on that type of research or anything like that, but let's not dump hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars into this kind of research.
Yeah, and I bet you a lot of those, I mean, we could talk about this in another episode, which I would like to, focusing more along evolutionary theory and different research in that. But how much do you want to bet that a lot of those numbers and statistics and research is made up because they're just...
Yeah, it's flubbed by people who have a political agenda,
or they just want the money and they don't want to do the work.
Right. Yeah, and then every time the government comes to them, they up the bill because they know they're going to get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about that in another aspect with subsidized college loans.
Right.
You know, that's why college is so outrageously expensive.
Yeah, because they're loans that are guaranteed by the government, and the schools are going to get paid, and the faculty is going to get paid, and the faculty unions are going to get paid. They're going to get their money because the government guaranteed it by law.
Yeah, and then they could just squeak up the rates over time.
Yep, and then the taxpayer's stuck with the bill.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I have those questions for that particular individual.
Okay.
Because I just really want to try to understand, as a concerned citizen, why they're willing to risk so much safety, and what they want to spend that other money on.
Yeah, and I'm sure in your line of work, you've seen some violent offenders, some people who are lifers, people who aren't going to quote unquote learn their lesson. I'm sure you've come across some of those individuals in your line of work.
Yeah, there's people that they just don't care.
Yeah, and they'll do it. Yeah.
There's no, there are people that genuinely do want to make a change and want to get their life in order.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about those people. You got to worry about the ones that don't care. And if they get let out for one reason or another, or let's just say that they're not getting out, and then you move them to a different prison, and then that prison starts to experience overcrowding. That's just a recipe for disaster.
Which, speaking of overcrowding, defunding is not going to help overcrowding.
No, it's going to make it worse.
It's just like all the issues that you have in liberal cities where they want to defund the police. So if you remove funding from these police departments, the police are going to be less trained. They're going to be less apt to handle dangerous situations better because of that lower amount of training. A lot of these departments that have low budgets and low funding are only able to supply their officers with the minimum of equipment, and which the minimum of equipment is you got a badge, a car, and a vest.
Yeah.
And a radio, and that's it. And so you're going to have these interactions with minimal tools to make it a safer interaction. And so this, those particular things lead to these, people getting shot by police in these ways that they're so up in arms about. It's a circle of death of reasoning that I don't think these people just don't quite understand. I think there's a guy on YouTube I watch frequently. His name's Donut Operator, and so often in these videos he explains that, maybe if these particular police had more funding, they would have more tools in their belt. If they had more physical training, if you funded them more, and they could get different types of judo training or mixed martial arts training, to where they wouldn't have to go to the gun and the tool belt as often, you just might end up with less shot people. Or if they have, more training on how to de-escalate situations. Everyone always screams, de-escalation, de-escalation. And, if you take away funding, they can't pay people to train. So you're just going to end up with more people who are scared, and we're going to have repeats of the Acorn incident. So.
Yeah. I just, sorry about that little glitch there. I just saw it was from August of last year, a headline that said that LAPD falls below 9,000 officers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty small number of officers for such a large city.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and Philadelphia has lost so many officers to the point where if there's a non-violent call at night, they don't respond to it.
Yeah, that's the what I was trying to actually look up was what city was that so they had reduced the number of officers on duty at night. The police departments themselves where you could go into were going to be closed at night. Like there was going to be no duty officer. Yeah, it's pretty pretty bad, and Philadelphia has its issues.
This, folks, is why we believe in the Second Amendment.
Yes, indeed.
So you can protect yourself. So if you don't have a gun, I recommend you go out and buy one, because I don't see it getting better soon.
Yeah, you need to, and if you don't have the training for it, get some training. There's places out there that will. I mean, shoot, you can even look up how to use a simple handgun on YouTube these days.
Right.
So,
But
do it legally in your state. I don't want any of you getting in trouble for, not following your, as unconstitutional as they may be.
Right.
I don't want you to get in trouble for not following your state's guidelines.
Yeah, follow all the laws that are set in place where you are living, and do your best to abide by them all the time, but also get informed. Even if you can't buy a gun, do some research, learn how they operate, learn different gas systems and triggers and builds and things like that. Learn. So that way, at least if you ever have to come across a point in your life where you may have to defend yourself, and the option arises for you to defend yourself with a firearm, at least you know what you're doing.
Right.
You have a mental knowledge and picture of what you're supposed to do, and you could maybe protect yourself. And that would be like a worst case scenario if like the whole country collapses, and then you need to in order to survive.
What do you think the best handgun for home defense is?
Well,
let me rephrase that. What do you think the best caliber of weapon is for home defense?
Home defense, I think it's going to be the same answer for me all around. Just because of how simple it is to handle and to move, and the quantity of it's hard to beat 9mm.
I would have to agree with that, but also I do kind of like the simplicity of 22.
Yeah.
Because you can get them in several different types of rounds, but also because if you are in a situation where you need to fire indoors and you have kids in the house, or you have other people that are in houses in different rooms, you mitigate the risk of rounds going through the walls. I myself do have a 22 near me when I'm in bed. And then I also have a 45, but I got some special rounds. They're very lightweight aluminum rounds that will not go through a wall.
Right.
They will deform before they end up going through a wall.
Yeah, they have less penetration.
Yeah, they're lower muzzle velocity, and they're also shaped a little bit differently. So, but yeah, I mean, and also, taking someone's life is a big thing to consider, but also, in that split-second decision, it's you or them, and it's going to be them.
Yeah, you have to be willing to save your life, and if you're going to carry, you're going to have to be willing to use the tool.
Yeah, you don't want to use it as a scare thing. You need to use it as intended.
Yeah, it's an absolute last ditch effort in those situations. You should never. You don't pull it out and brandish it and threaten somebody.
No, you want to keep it a secret as much as possible until the very last second that that's your last line, like Luke said.
Yeah. It's not. I always see this video online that it's carrying a firearm is not. It's not necessarily an offensive tool, but it's a shield. It's that very last minute line of defense that you can put up to protect yourself from a strike or a blow, like you would like medieval knights would. They don't always have the shield up because you can't offensively move well with a shield up or behind some kind of defensive cover.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have that defensive cover to throw up last minute to protect from a strike or in this case, someone wanting to harm you. So I recommend investing in a firearm.
Yeah.
I carry regularly. And also, if you're someone that does carry regularly, I would look into investing in some kind of concealable soft body armor if you're able to pay for it.
There's another reason to carry up here in Alaska too.
Yes. wildlife.
Not just human beings, but wildlife. I've had several close encounters with bears. Didn't have to use a firearm. And then at work, I work way out in the middle of nowhere, and we're not allowed to have firearms there on the property.
Yeah.
And that's where I've had a close encounter with a black bear before, and also some moose as well. That was in town though.
Yeah.
I've never had to discharge my weapon for that though.
Yeah, the moose in town here in Anchorage are crazy.
Yeah, they have no fear.
Yeah, absolutely no fear of anything. And so, if you keep that in mind, if you live here locally in Anchorage, if you see a moose running out of fear, then maybe you should also, keep your head on a swivel, because moose here aren't typically scared of very much.
Right. But speaking of personal protection,
yes,
kind of leads into our next little topic, probably before we end it for today.
Yes.
But the something happened in a council meeting in Bakersfield, California.
Yes, Bakersfield, California, and it's really kind of ties up the whole episode with a bow. There was a particular individual who was going up against kind of protesting this crowd, or not this crowd, this city council.
She was coming up against the city council. She was quite upset with them for one reason or another.
Yeah, and that one reason was not supporting Palestine quite enough. And this is what she decided to do. I got a little video clip here.
I hope one day somebody brings the guillotine and kills all of you motherfuckers. You guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
Oh, shut up, silly woman.
Yeah. That's like, why would you even do that?
The gall of that woman. The absolute gall. I mean...
Yeah, she couldn't... You can't say that. You can't...
Uh-oh, retard alert!
Yes.
Retard alert!
Yeah, because if you don't know, that's a crime.
Yes, and well, that leads me into our next section here.
Yeah, what was the result of her doing that?
Valeria. Miss Patel, that was a threat, what you said at the end, and so the officers are going to escort you out and take care of that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, immediate consequences. I don't think she was prepared for that. It blows my mind how, like, does she think she's in Palestine? Where you can just kind of, do whatever you want?
I think this all comes from it's this particular soft group of people in our society that have never been told no, have never been corrected, and so therefore they think they can just, because that's how she talks in her own private circles.
Yes, to her other friends.
To her other friends
who are seeing eye to eye with her on things.
She's that kind of person that's saying, oh, we just want all these Zionists to die. They all just need to go out and die, which is just lunacy. It is ridiculous behavior. You can't just go around wishing death on people. And so she kind of had a little faux pas there, and she let the quiet part out loud. She let her inside words come out. And
But I mean, she said that she hated them, and I've heard the whole clip. Maybe we can get you a full clip at some point here, but she made it very clear that she didn't like them, that she wished they would die, even several times earlier than that she hated them.
Yes.
And then, of course, there was the guillotine comment, and then finally she said that they were going to come to their houses and murder them. I mean, from the very first moment that she stepped up to that podium there to speak, it was very clear.
We're going to be at your house. We'll murder you.
I feel like that was she intended to say all that stuff. I mean, I really do. The amount of hatred that was spewing out of her mouth towards these people, because they wouldn't come up with or they wouldn't come up with an idea, not an idea. They wouldn't come up with a petition to submit about a ceasefire in Gaza. Like the Bakersfield City Council is going to have anything to do
Right.
With
Has that kind of pull. Yeah, she definitely kind of failed her mission there. You know, like this is let's just listen to their clip and then we'll see.
I hope one day somebody brings the guillotine and kills all of you motherfuckers. You guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
Yeah.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Yeah, she failed her mission. That was not good. And you know what was the result of that? You know how much they said that she had. So she ended up getting charged with. I think ended up getting charged with 18 felonies, and the judge set her bail at $1 million.
1 million.
Yes.
Over 9,000.
That is definitely over 9,000.
Well, I agree with him on that one. I think maybe she was just full of hot air, but at the same time, you can't take that threat as a non-credible threat. You know, she
right.
said it in front of everybody.
Yeah, she was willing to say it in front of everybody, cameras, everybody, police, and then that's terroristic threats. That's threats against state officials. That's there's so there's 18 charges.
Yeah, I mean, she could go in there and under freedom of speech, she can say that she hates them, she doesn't like them, she wishes they would lose their job, they should be replaced.
They're stupid.
Thinks they're stupid. You can say any of that, but as soon as you start to say guillotine and we're going to come to your house and murder you, I mean, that's an intent.
That was the line crossed there.
Yeah,
and it's like she was in the clear up until she said, "We'll come to your house. We'll murder you."
Yeah, and then everything kind of like what I think police will do is they'll take apart that whole speech that she gave, and then they can kind of retroactively put intent on those things.
Right. All that stuff before that she was in the clear on she would have gotten away with as far as a free speech kind of thing. All that now is included.
Yes.
Because you said we'll come to your house and murder you.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how a lawyer would deal with that, if you might pick that apart a little bit too. So maybe there's charges that'll get reduced. She might take a plea deal, et cetera, et cetera.
And so now she's going on X trying to raise money for her defense.
No, absolutely not.
You will not get a dime from me. In fact, I will give the cop my handcuffs. Yes, I will give the cop my handcuffs to arrest you.
Yeah, no,
I will help.
Anyone who does, other than her friends who see eye to eye, but anyone who does, any reasonable person who donates, get out. Like,
right?
No, she needs to face the consequences on these.
Right.
And the thing of it is, if she can't afford a lawyer, one will be provided to her by the state.
Right.
So
yeah, well, not mine, because I don't live in California anymore, thank goodness. But the taxpayer will pay for her defense if she can't foot the bill herself.
Yeah, so there's no reason to donate any money towards her. And even if the money wasn't being necessarily used for defense, but was used to like support her rent or anything directly associated with her personal life, well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
There's been thousands of other people that have lost their jobs. Oh, by the way, she did lose her job.
Yes, she did. They
overnight almost
kicked her to the curb quickly.
Yeah. And she was part of a environmental advocacy group.
Oh wow, shocker!
Shock and awe there. So, it doesn't. There's been thousands of people that have lost their jobs after being charged, legitimate criminals, non-legitimate criminals, whatever, and don't have the money to support, and never did have the money to support their personal lives after being charged.
Right.
So, boo-hoo.
Yep. Yeah, you made your bed, lie in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My new favorite phrase that I've said a lot, frequently at work is, "Yeah, it sucks to suck."
Yeah.
you chose. The system didn't just magically make you do these things. Those people on that city council didn't magically make her threaten their lives and say, "I'm going to come to your house and kill you."
She needs to get some help.
Yes, she definitely needs help. and
maybe this time when she's in prison, and I don't know if she's going to get her bail paid for, but maybe this time she'll have some time to reflect.
Yeah, you have to. And I think she's already done some reflecting, because the next video that I saw of her was her, in tans, just sobbing away at the court when he got handed down her sentence.
Do you think the sobbing was her reflecting, or like, how did this happen to me? Woe is me.
I think, me. Honestly, I think a mix of both. I do think that she thinks it's ridiculous that was a result, but I also do think that there was, in those tears, some genuine regret and saying, like, man,
I don't know if I believe it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's your opinion. That's fine. But I don't know. I think there's been the amount of hatred that came out of her mouth, and then all of a sudden she was just shocked. I mean, it was like spoiled child, child attitude, and then going to jail, and then still feeling like spoiled child. Woe is me. That's what I think. I don't know if she's really done any sort of reflection and regretted it. I think she regrets it because she's now there.
Oh yeah, and I agree. I think that's fully possible. I mean, that's how it happens with a lot of folks that get caught up in crime. They're not sorry until they're caught. So
yeah,
that happens. But yeah, that was pretty much all of what we have for today. You have anything else?
When's that meeting for you gonna happen? That you'd like to get some questions from that woman on the. Do you know her name, by the way?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I had the paperwork, and
but what was it also she
left it.
said about budgets and knowing who we are, where we are aligned politically?
Oh yeah,
that was
her,
a spot or a line that you skipped over, which kind of displays the character of this person.
Yeah, I think her opening line of her advertisement,
and we're going back to the Anchorage Assembly, or the state.
State representative.
State representative. Sorry, not
her opening line of her advertisement for these meetings was essentially, show me your budget plan, and I'll tell you where you line up politically, or show me what you're wanting to spend your money on, and I'll show you where you line up politically, and it was phrased in a way, and basically she's saying, you think you're a Republican, or you think you believe and support these things. Let me show you how much money that costs, and then you won't want to do that anymore. You're gonna be so willing to give up on your morals and your values, and you're gonna be willing to support what I believe because it may cost less money, or this or that or the other thing. She was being snarky,
right? Yeah.
With that. And because she's so smart and knows how to, because she's the one that has power. She's the one that's in office, and she's going to tell you, the taxpayer, how to spend your money that they take from you at the point of a gun. These taxes that we have to pay because they impose them. And I have my own personal issues with taxes.
As do I.
Not saying that I'm not paying. I always pay my taxes. I just don't agree with them all the time.
Oh, I don't agree with how, let's go into we can talk about income tax, federal income tax later, but I'm talking more specifically about my property tax.
Right.
And how a solid 40 to 50% goes to the school system.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and when I lived in California, it was even worse.
I'm sure, yeah.
And because so as a single white male in the state of California, I didn't make a whole lot of money. I think I made, at most, the highest paying job I had in the state of California, I made $42,000 a year. And my every bi-weekly paycheck, they would take at least $400 in taxes from me. Every bi-weekly paycheck, state.
That's
and
just the
taxes.
State, not including federal.
Right.
And the thing of it is, what did they base the percentage of the taxes they took on your gross before federal?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, because sometimes they'll do that. Like they'll look at your check, they'll look at the gross amount and they'll tax the percentage on the gross, and then forget about the federal side of things. Like,
right. And all I know is that every year I did my taxes in the state of California, I still end up owing. I never got out of the state any kind of payback. I would get payback from federal
that's because
taxes.
they're not shooting up heroin on the street, dude.
Yeah, well, sorry, I should have used those clean shoot up centers more often.
I just go down there. You don't even have to shoot up. Just go down there and hang out.
Yeah.
You know, have a cup of coffee, sit in one of the comfy chairs.
Right. Yeah. Let me
play with the rubber band.
Yeah. Let me get my arm ready now.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it was dumb. And like I said, every year I would still end up owing the state like $800 in taxes at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I was like, how do you take so much money from me throughout the year and I still owe you money? I didn't want to give you this money in the first place.
Just arbitrary. It's just made up. I mean, that's really all it is. I mean, it's the same thing around here. Like my, for example, my property taxes have gone up, I think 2 times since I've lived here, because my assessed value has gone up arbitrarily, which my assessed value is different than my appraised value.
Right. But they're not going to tax you on the appraised value.
No.
Because they won't make more money off of that.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's like we were saying. That taxes is a whole
that's a whole nother ball of wax. Maybe we'll get into it at some time.
But so it's like I said, it's those same people in power that are telling you, the taxpayer, you know what? You think you're so smart. You think you believe in all these things. You think you have these morals. You think you don't want to help us kill babies in the womb. Let me show you how much these things cost, and let me tell you how you ought to spend your money. Let me tell you how I'm going to spend your money because I'm so smart and I know how to spend your money better than you do.
I mean, if she says something about show me a budget and I'll show you where you stand politically, I mean, she's not wrong on that, but she's using it as a judgmental portion because, I mean, we can look at her budget proposal and see where she is politically.
Right.
You know, and we don't, and I don't agree with any, you know, I don't agree with it. No. So if there's money set aside for abortion clinics or, you know, medical, as they sometimes, or pregnancy centers,
female health care,
female reproductive health care.
Rob, you need to get your hands off their uterus.
Okay. Man, that's what I want. That's what. Never mind.
You know what's funny is that we should do a combined show with our wives and let our wives talk about how ridiculous abortion is and all because they both of them are very opinionated on the subject.
But so we can tell where her political leanings lie based on her budget proposal, and I don't agree with it. But she's in the position to dictate that type of thing, unfortunately, to a degree. So,
and that's why it's important for us as citizens of the local area to be informed and go when they have these meetings. When your local politicians have these meetings, go and
vote.
Yes, go and vote. And also go and attend these meetings. Ask the questions. Be that person that stands up and says, I disagree with you because guess what? You're not smarter than I am. I think that you're wasting our time and money.
I have a different opinion than you.
Right.
Is that a crime?
Right. And so, come up with some ideas. Get involved. Because if we continue to just let things happen the way they've been happening, things in this country continue to just fall apart.
Yeah.
And get worse. If people just keep saying, well, you know what, I'm getting a paycheck. I'm able to put food on my table for my family. As long as I can keep doing that, then I'm fine. Well, guess what? If it continues to get worse, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to lose that.
I think that we as a country stand on a knife's edge right now. And I hate to be kind of cliche, but I think a lot of it hinges on this next election.
Yeah,
I really do.
Oh yeah.
And I've been hearing that a lot, and I'm in agreements with them that we are in a dire situation here at this point in time in our country. And there's a lot of shady stuff going on with the federal government, and it seems like, they're doing a lot of things to keep the Democrats in power, and maybe not necessarily Joe Biden himself, but that line. And I don't even think that that's another discussion too, that Joe Biden is just the face of the operation. There's nothing really.
Yeah, everyone's heard it before. Weekend at Bernie's. He's an empty suit.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we really need to get more people out to vote for Trump this election. I mean, it is imperative.
Yeah, it is absolutely imperative.
We must overwhelm the voting centers with our votes. I mean, we have to. The numbers, because they're going to try to cheat.
Yes,
they are, and we have to. We have to kind of anticipate the numbers like we saw in the last election and maybe even the midterms.
Yeah.
And we have to anticipate those numbers. Maybe we can get some averages of the suspected voting fraud. The number of votes. Maybe we can get some average numbers on that.
There's actually some information that I think we ought to go over in our next episode as far as an increase of deceased voters attempting to register to vote.
So, yeah, we could touch on that, but I'm just saying, like, if we can get some average numbers, we need to overwhelm. We need to push beyond those numbers, because if they tried it that time, they got away with it. They might try to push it even more this time.
Yeah, things aren't on the level, and
no, there's no way. And I was watching. I'm sure a lot of you viewers and listeners were watching that 2020 election as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought we had it in the bag, and because I was actually working nights at that time, and in Alaska we're quite a bit behind, 4 hours from the East Coast.
I stayed up all night to watch everything.
Yeah, and I around midnight or so, I thought we had it, and then all of a sudden it just changed.
Yeah, well, yeah. Once it got to 3 a.m., because I was watching Crowder stream the entire time.
Yeah,
they stayed up. They did a whole 16-hour stream.
Yeah,
and I was there for the whole thing. And it just flip-flopped. It got to 3 a.m. and then just...
And I thought it was just the weirdest thing. I mean, I'm sure you did too.
Yeah.
It was just very bizarre how it happened. But now we know there was a lot of shady stuff going on.
Yeah. So I mean, and they very clearly got away with it this last time. And so they're going to double down.
Sure they are.
I don't doubt it for a minute. And, you 3-letter agencies, I know you're listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have already got quite the indication.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I really feel like we've been listened to and watched, and
interesting.
So we'll see. We're not even that popular yet, but
no, we're not.
I believe I believe there's observations. So that's just my thing. Maybe I'm crazy. Who knows?
Well, we can talk about that offline.
Paint me a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a lot of people being watched that don't necessarily have anything to do with shows or podcasts or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I knew I was already... when I was in California, I was already labeled as part of a racist, far-right extremist group when all those riots and stuff were going on. So, yeah, crazy people, crazy world, but that's America right now. So we need to do our best to change it.
All right, well, with that, I hope you have a wonderful week.
Yes.
A couple of weeks, because we're not going to be recording for the next 3 weeks.
Yep, you're out of town,
yep.
And I'm working more, and so we're just going to continue doing what we're doing.
Yeah, you'll be active on social media.
Yep.
So, well, without further ado, it was good to have you here.
Yep.
God bless.
America. See ya.
Well, my goodness gracious, let me tell you the news. My head's been wet with the midnight dew. I've been down on bended knee, talking to the man from Galilee. He spoke to me in a voice so sweet, I thought I heard the shuffle of angels' feet. called my name when my heart stood still. When he said, man, go do my will, go tell that long tongue.